It's time for Health Futures with Cypress HomeCare Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And I'm your host, Bob Roth. And again, it must be Friday. We come at you live every Friday here at Money Radio Studios in the Scottsdale Air Park. And today is Friday, September 21st. And there's a significance to this day. Today is the first day of fall. And if you tuned in to our show last Friday, I played, as part of our best of, a show that we did last year on actually September 22nd, and it was on fall prevention. And I want to make a dedicated effort to really getting the message out to you, our listening audience, how preventable falls are. So I thought it would be great to bring back one of our guests from last week, Dr. Babak Nayeri. So Babak Nayeri has been on the show a couple times over the years and has always brought us some great information. So if you are hearing this show for the first time, our show, Health Futures, is about how our older adult population can live a healthier, happier life. And if you've heard this show before and you've not met Dr. Babak Nayeri, I want to give you a quick bio on who this fellow is that's right across from me. He's quite accomplished. He's dedicated his professional career to community engagement, population health, and health systems improvements. In his duties as Director of Healthy Aging at the Arizona Department of Health Services, and I love that title, he's the Director of Healthy Aging, and that's what our show is all about. He holds joint appointments where he is the Clinical Associate Professor at University of Arizona College of Medicine, Geriatrics General Internal Medicine. He's the Adjunct Professor at University of Arizona, the Mel and Enid Zuckerman College of Public Health. He serves as the chairperson on the Arizona Attorney General's Health and Safety Committee. He's the chairperson for Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition. He's also a board member of the Office of Attorney General's Task Force Against Senior Abuse, and he's an advisor liaison to the Governor's Advisory Council on Aging, and he is on the Arizona Alzheimer's Task Force. So do you have a life outside of all this stuff that you do, Babak?
It is always important to have a work-life balance, and a good day to everybody. Happy Friday. Bob, thank you for inviting me to Health Futures again.
Yeah,
it's wonderful to be here.
It's great to have you. And, I read off a lot of the stuff that you're doing. And, you and I have had a chance to get to know one another over the years. And we really got a chance to get to know one another while serving on the task force against senior abuse, which I think I've been on that task force since almost its inception. So probably 7 or 8 years. And we've accomplished a great deal. And while you are the chairperson for the Attorney General's Health and Safety Committee, I'm an ad hoc member, so I'm pleased to be there. I just can't be there all the time, but you are accomplishing a lot of stuff over there. And one of the things that we talk about here on the show as it relates to that Health and Safety Committee, beyond falls, and we're going to talk about that today, is we talk about advanced directives. And we talk about how important it is to have your plans memorialized. And we talk about that a lot on our show. And while we're not dedicating this episode or this show today to advanced directives, we will be coming back at you when that time comes. When is that usually? That's like in June, right?
That is, yes, in between June to mid-June.
Right, right. So we'll be revisiting that throughout the year, but we make an emphasis in June. So I want to really talk about falls because falls are so preventable. And, I have an aging parent. My father's 82 years old. He's a little unsteady on his feet these days. And I love the fact that my dad had gotten orders from his doctor to go see a physical therapist. And he's seeing a physical therapist a couple times a week. And he's also seeing a personal trainer working on strengthening his balance, his core. Because, again, we can prevent falls. Falls when you're 82 or older can kill you, right?
So a different perspective, Bob, from where I sit in interactions with the community and across the state of Arizona. We, over the past years, 3 years especially, the number of fall-related injury that caused or led to mortality have been on a rise. So, say in the past 3 years, the trajectory has been, around it started about 900 deaths per year. Now we are over 1,000 deaths per year among people 65 years and older. So as people...
Is that in our state or national?
Yes, state.
That's our state.
Just for the state of Arizona.
Wow.
1,076 deaths as of 2017 data, which is the latest data we have. Usually our data runs about 2 years behind, but 2017 data.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure, please.
How much of those were preventable?
I would say the deaths would have been 100% preventable.
Preventable.
Falls, on the other hand, as I started saying, from my perspective, are not preventable. There are two types of people who are at highest risk. People who are inactive and people who are active. So the more active we are, there's an increased chance of falling or injuring ourselves. I have fallen 3 times over the past 2 years because as I stay active, well, I'm going to fall. And the only way to absolutely remove the risk of fall is for us to all move to moon where there's no gravity or be in a vacuum or in a state, a space lab so where there is no gravity.
Right.
So until there is gravity, there will be falls. But there are ways that we can prevent injury and mortality. That's what we're here to talk about.
Absolutely, yes. And I want to hear more. How do we do this?
Okay.
So tell me, it's a great time of year.
Yes.
I mean, we have decided, and it wasn't just you and I. This was a decision that was made, I believe, locally here by Governor Ducey, to recognize the first day as fall prevention. And it's really the entire week, and we like to say it's the entire month, and if we can make it the entire year, it'd be the entire year.
Yes. Well, so great point, Bob. Falls, just like what you mentioned earlier with advanced care planning, it's a 7 days a week, 365 days a year responsibility for each one of us. We need to take more proactive steps to preventing fall-related mortality, as well as planning for our end-of-life care to make sure our wishes are known.
As we wind up this first segment, this is one of the things that we do at Cypress HomeCare Solutions is when we evaluate and assess a client before we take on them as a client. One of the first things we do is we assess not only where they are physically as well as mentally where they are, but we also assess their living conditions because there are things in the home that can cause falls. Like rugs that may be
loose rugs,
loose rugs, corner tables that clud be an object that could cause blunt force if you fall on it.
Poor lighting,
cords,
clutter around the house. More things we can talk about.
Yeah, so we've got Wes taking us out with a little bit of Bruce Springsteen, and Bruce on Fridays is always a good thing. And I do want to say this, as you, our listening audience, we want you to kind of be thinking about your family members, the ones that you love, that could be a potential fall risk. And think about some of the things that we just have said and come back to our second segment because we're going to talk about the hazards and things that we can help to prevent falls from happening altogether. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. Today's a special show. It's a fall prevention dedicated show. I've got Dr. Babak Nayeri from Arizona Department of Health Services here in the room with me. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602 264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And if you're just tuning in, we're on our second segment. And this is a special edition because we are concentrating on fall prevention. It is the first day of fall, and this day has been proclamated as Fall Prevention Day in this week ahead, as well as us making the month of September Fall Prevention Month. And I've got in the studio Dr. Babak Nayeri. He's a repeat guest that we've had, and he's just full of great information. If you missed our first segment, we really kicked off the show about talking about falls and the importance to prevent them. And we're here today, right now, to talk about, picking up on that and talking about what we can do to protect our loved ones and avoid 1,076 deaths, you said?
Yes. That
we had last year due to falls. And, these people, as Dr. Nayeri said, we may not have been able to prevent the falls, but we certainly could have done everything we could to prevent death.
Yes.
So, I want to pick up on where we left off in the first segment. So, I was talking about how Cypress and a lot of good home care companies come in. They assess the condition of the home and the individual. So, we're looking for, throw rugs. We're looking for cords. We're looking at sharp objects that could, literally kill someone if they take a fall and hit their head. So we want to get those all removed.
Yes.
We want to make sure that there are grab bars in the bathroom and, around the toilet seat so that they have some assistive devices so that they can prevent falls.
And that's a great point, Bob. If you go to azstopfalls.org or better yet, go to azhealthyaging.com. That's again azhealthyaging.com. It's the easiest way to navigate through the
Easy Aging.
AZ Healthy Aging.
AZ Healthy Aging.
All one word, .com. That's the Department of Health Services website for healthy aging. If you go under falls, there's a list of things that you can do under $20 to improve the environment at your home, such as grab bars, the anti-skid mats in the bathtubs, things that you can do under $20.
So I'm looking at the site.
Okay.
And again, this does fall under the Arizona Department of Health Services website, but it's Arizona Healthy Aging. That link that you just shared. One more time on that link.
azhealthyaging.
azhealthyaging.com. So, the nice thing is you go down the left-hand side of your website. And I have not been here in a while. You guys have done a great job with this. So, you have all the subject matters, and one of them is falls and injuries. And all you have to do is click on it. And then you have falls, prevention, information, and resources.
Yes.
And that's what you're alluding to.
That's what we are referring to. So there is a list of things you can do under $20. If you go to Home Depot and get a grab bar, for example. And there are things you can do. We also, as far as risk factors or things that you can do.
Slip-resistant socks.
Yes.
It's just simple.
Slippers and socks. We can, we all love our pets, but, they don't discern whether they're in our way. They want to be helpful sometimes. They want to love on us, and they happen to trip us sometimes, especially as we age and we're not as stable. Our core strength is lacking. Our leg strength, leg muscles are weaker. So we got to be careful with the pets being in our way, especially at night when we wake up and we make sometimes frequent trips to the restroom.
That's what happens with aging, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't just happen to me, it happens to you too?
It happens to all of us. So
just all of us guys.
Yes.
Women are spared of that.
Doesn't discriminate. So, a well-lit environment. And speaking of environment, we were talking before the show started about some of the wonderful things that are happening in our own backyard. Dr. Thurman Lockhart, a professor at the Arizona State University Biomedical Engineering School, he was recruited from Virginia Tech to Arizona by President Crow of ASU. He is brilliant. He has invented the SLIP lab, which is a imagine a large-scale treadmill. This treadmill, while the person is harnessed, causes perturbances. So it agitates you to lose your balance while you're harnessed. And by doing that, the brain becomes reprogrammed to find its balance. It works amazingly. And there's lots of data that provides as evidence behind this and the science that goes behind this. Another thing that Professor Lockhart, Thurman Lockhart, look him up, Google him, has done is he's working with the engineering schools and technology companies to look at how we can improve the living environment in the future to help people live a healthy life. So healthy living through technology. Things that are going to, for example, light bulbs that are interactive, that light up the room when the person wakes up, because I don't know if there's anybody else like this out there. I cannot sleep with lights on.
I can't either.
Okay, what happens is that our brain, there is a gland in our brain, hypophysis, that reacts to light. That's why at first light, our brain automatically wakes up. So, when there's light, we can't sleep. We cannot enjoy a restful night's sleep. But when there's darkness, when we wake up in the middle of the night, or for whatever reason, the light needs to be smart to turn on its own, so to prevent a fall. Or there are a lot of technologies that they're looking at in the biomedical engineering here at the ASU, and there's technology that University of Arizona, College of Engineering, and Center on Aging. That's again, University of Arizona, College of Medicine, Arizona Center on Aging. There are wonderful things being done with technology as predictive technology for falls. So predictive falls using technology is the way of the future, and to help people live healthy. The other thing that we're doing in our backyard is a group of trauma surgeons, Dr. Alicia Mangrum with G60, that's G as in George, 60. So they're focusing on people 60 years and older in aggressively and rapidly, through surgical intervention, rehab them and get them mobile. Our body and our brains have been designed to be used. The old adage of, if you don't use it, you lose it, applies to this concept very well, and it's very true. So we must use our body, we must use our brains to keep us live healthy longer.
It's interesting, and I talk about this on the show all the time, how fortunate we are to live in this great state of Arizona. You talk about, Dr. Thurman.
Yes.
And you talked about Dr. Mangrum. And, I mean, right here in our backyard, yes, we recruited Dr. Thurman from, Virginia Tech. And Dr. Mangrum, from what I understand, when I met her, she's deeply rooted here and came up through our systems. Listening to her talk about falls, and she's a trauma surgeon, and she has seen just about everything. And she talks about how when she first became a trauma surgeon, some of the things that she saw in the ERs and in her surgery center or surgical room, a lot of these were automobile accidents and people that were severely injured. And she's talking about how, fast forward 25 years, and she's seeing similar stuff on 60-plus-year-olds. I mean, a fall isn't just a simple fall. I mean, some of these people are taking dives downstairs. Some of them are just taking one big blow to the head, and it's like you being in an automobile accident.
So brain trauma is huge.
It is.
And those are things we can hopefully talk when you're ready.
When we return, yes. I hear Wes playing a little bit of music. What do you got going there, Wes? Meatloaf. Okay. Why not? It's Meatloaf Friday. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get Susie and talk to her about preparing some meatloaf. Yeah. I really love meatloaf. How about you, Bob?
Oh, I love it.
There you go. Well, listen, you've been listening to Health Futures Taking Stock in You. We are at halftime here. We're talking about fall prevention, and We're going to come back to you after halftime, and we're going to pick up on our conversation on how to prevent falls. We'll be right back.
I would do anything for love. I'll never lie to you, and that's a fact.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. We're on our third segment. If you're just tuning in, I've got Dr. Babak Nayeri from the Arizona Department of Health Services here in the studio, and we have been talking about fall prevention. And if you missed the first two segments, go up to our website at cypresshomecare.com, click on the third button along the top, and if you click on the media button, we're the third button down, and you'll catch this show, and you'll catch about 200 others we've been bringing to you for the last 5 years. So I really want to jump right back into this, Babak. Some really good content. First of all, that website address where you can find out where you can get stuff for $20 or less. What's the name of that site?
azhealthyaging.com, com.
It's .com, it's not .gov?
No, because
Okay.
even though it's a it's a government or state of Arizona Department of Health Services,
Right.
Bureau of Tobacco Chronic Disease website, it is the easiest way to navigate because we have so many programs and wonderful things that we offer through Department of Health Services. We were talking before on the break about all the things that Bureau of Tobacco Chronic Disease is doing about smoking, and smoking, incidentally, being one of the risk factors for falls, and and so many other chronic conditions and mortality. So. But they, it is a government site, but this is the easiest way to navigate, azhealthyaging.com. And, of course, now you will see if you go to azstopfalls.org, which is a coalition of volunteers, you may see that it lands on the Department of Health Services website, the .gov website. However, that's because the Department of Health Services graciously agreed to host the website since we were hacked twice in the last month. But it is the coalition's website. It's a coalition of volunteers. There are lots of information on there. Incidentally, this Thursday, the 20th, this past Thursday, last night, as a matter of fact, we had, I lost track of time for a second. Last night we had the Light Up the Night event, commemorating and recognizing all the lives lost as a result of ground fall or unintentional fall-related injuries.
I love that they're doing that.
So when you say fall prevention, for those of you who are just joining us, we want to make sure that we're not talking about preventing the season of fall or autumn or any waterfalls.
We're welcoming
Yes.
this season of autumn.
Indeed.
You know what? We saw a little bit this week of 90s, but I can't wait till it gets into the 70s and 80s. I love this state. We went through our winter this summer, and it just keeps coming at us. Earlier this week, I think I was in the car on Monday and Tuesday. It was like 108 or 106 degrees. That's just too bloody hot.
And speaking of autumn and welcoming cooler temperatures, we will have fall rains, and in some areas of the country, we have slippery conditions.
Ice and
black
snow
ice and rain. So slippery surfaces are yet another risk factor for ground falls. Ground falls defined as rapid descent to the ground. That's the type of fall we're talking about. And there are so many injuries related to ground falls. Everybody has heard about traumatic brain injury or injury to the brain, head trauma, whether it's closed concussion or closed head concussion or other types of head trauma. 35% of fatal falls suffered from traumatic brain injury.
Wow.
Okay, so my own I've shared this with you, Bob, and if I may share it with the audience.
Please.
This is an area that hits home close to my, and it's very near and dear to my heart, and hits close to home. My grandmother, who was doing very well with all her faculties, she was 89 or 90 years old, and she was mobile. She did have high blood pressure, taking some blood thinners for that, which is, by the way, something that we need to check with our providers and make sure when we are taking blood thinners. Falls can be really fatal. With that.
They could. I mean, obviously, when we talk about blood thinners, we're talking about the blood not being able to coagulate, and just a simple nick could end up, they could bleed out.
Yes. And
internally or externally.
And high doses of omega-3s could also increase the risk of bleeding. So it acts as a blood thinner and prevents coagulation. So aspirin does that too. There are many medications that have those side effects. Be aware of your medications. Talk to your provider. Talk to your pharmacist. I digressed a bit, but my grandmother, going back to that, was stepping off of an elevator that did not quite stop at a level or in alignment with the floor. She stepped off, the elevator stumbled, fell, fractured her hip, and about 3 months later, she died.
Oy.
Okay, so she had internal bleeding. They didn't catch it. So those are things that we need to be aware of. Medication, and supplements that we take. There are, supplements can have an interaction with medications. All the herbal medicines, those are chemicals. They have interactions with the prescription drugs that you take. Be aware of those. Talk with your doctor. Vision. Your vision is important in preventing falls. Keep your glasses clean, please. I don't know. I wish that with technology we could make smudge-free, stain-free lenses, because my glasses, I have no idea how they pick up on all kinds of oil residue and dirt. And it's like, what's going on with my glasses? Pretty soon I cannot see through them. And sometimes I get too lazy to clean them. We need to keep our reading glasses or our glasses that we use, for distance. We need to keep those clean. Get your eyes checked regularly on an annual basis. Hearing, it's important to check our hearing. It's important to check our health, our blood pressure, our diabetes. If you have blood sugar problems, diabetes, that can affect the nerves, the peripheral nerves. Those can cause falls.
You've done a great job of really talking about things that can cause falls. And, Babak, you and I have gotten a chance to know one another over the years. You missed one thing.
What's that?
And we've talked about it here on the show, and that is we do have somewhat of an epidemic out there, and that is we have a lot of seniors that are out there that drink alcohol.
Oh, yes. And
alcohol, where, it is legal to drink, is very problematic for our older adult population. And, we're going to dedicate more shows to talking about alcoholism in our older adults. And here we are talking about falls. And, you take medication and you mix a little bit of alcohol into it. What's that do for somebody, Babak?
Well, so those have synergistic effects, and it compounds the results, accelerates the results of prescription medications. It alters your judgment of distance. It can alter your vision. It affects your balance, which balance is huge in falls prevention.
It is.
So thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
That shows my imperfection and think of everything.
I'm not.
And that's why we need people in home health care business, people,
right.
Providers who go in home and do assessments. Your agency and other home health care agencies. Please, those of you who go out as caregivers, paid formal caregivers and informal caregivers, learn about these things so you can be aware and you can assess risk in the living environment.
Absolutely. And the thing about alcohol that people lose sight of is the way it is metabolized by older adults. Babak, you and I having 2 drinks is very different if we were 85 years old and having 2 drinks. So it metabolizes a lot different, and it can have a compounding effect whether you are taking alcohol in and no medication, or you're taking some of the medications and alcohol. So I want to take a break here. We're finishing up our 3rd segment. One more time on that one website with the $20 or less.
azhealthyaging.com.
And I got to tell you, for $20 and less, you can get shower or bathtub mat, grab bars, non-slip bathtub strips, motion sensor for sight, for night lights. I mean, there's so many things that you can get. Go to that website. Let's prevent falls. Stick around for one more segment. We're concluding our 3rd segment. You've been listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We'll be right back.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And Wes, as always, I really love when we exit. There you go, a little cowbell. Exit the 3rd segment, start the 4th segment with a little lover boy working for the weekend, Babak.
Awesome.
It is awesome. And, if you're just tuning in, we're on our 4th segment. We're talking fall prevention. It is obviously the first day of fall today, and it's a great opportunity for us to address a real issue for our state. And we had over 1,000 deaths last year, and many of them were preventable, and these people didn't have to die. And if you missed the first 3 segments, you can catch them up on our website at cypresshomecare.com. Go to the media button, hit the drop down, and radio shows the 3rd button down. You can catch this one and about 200 others that we've been bringing to you for 5 years. So as far as it being the first day of fall, our governor signed a proclamation at the beginning of the month.
Yes, Honorable Governor Ducey signed a proclamation proclaiming September, the entire month, as Falls Prevention Awareness Month.
Nice.
And in the governor's proclamation, he calls for the healthcare providers, family members, caregivers, all older adults, fire and medical departments, first responders, and community partners to join the Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition. Arizona Falls Prevention Coalition, their website is azstopfalls.org. And its regional chapters, we have 3 chapters, northern, southern, and western chapters, to help our communities join those local chapters and routinely assess our older adults, including our veterans and those with disabilities, for fall risks, and celebrate 10 years standing together to prevent falls. Now, having said that, again, you mentioned the weekend. I would be remiss if I did not, again, mention and emphasize, please be responsible when you mix alcohol with your prescription drugs. On weekends, people tend to drink. There are specific areas in our state, across the state, where there are higher prevalences or incidents of falls and fall-related injuries. And those are, believe it or not, Bob, are where there are bars, and when people step out of the bars under the influence, the surfaces, the surface we walk on, if there are cracks or there are uneven surfaces, sidewalks,
or certain places up north and might have a little ice, black ice or snow.
Certainly, so Flagstaff, Northern Arizona, Prescott. Those areas.
Whiskey Row.
Yes, there is a place called Whiskey Row in Prescott.
There is.
Downtown Prescott, by the park, across the park off Gurley Avenue. So
I do, by the way, love that town square.
Me too.
It really is. It is so quaint, and it kind of really represents what America is all about.
Indeed.
I love it.
So be aware, prevent your risks, because over 18,000 transports to level 1 trauma centers were reported to the Arizona State Trauma Registry in 2016. Over 18,000 falls. And 2 out of 5 patients who were reported to by the trauma centers suffered a fall. And that also translates into 3/4 of all falls that were presented at trauma centers were transported by our emergency medical services, fire departments, and ambulances. So falls and lift assists are huge problems in our communities. Our fire departments, our firefighters, they are trained to fight emergencies and save lives and fires. When they get called and the whole engine is called a dispatch to assisting with a lift off the floor, that taxes our system and it prevents them from being able to respond to other emergencies in the state. And then, of course, one other thing that I would like to impart and share with you is that our females are at a higher risk for injuries and mortality than our males are, and they experience greater portions after age 65.
Wow.
So there are various reasons for that. But again, staying active, getting your annual checkups, ask your providers to do a risk assessment. Please ask them. It's your right to ask your providers to have a risk assessment. And if you fall, there's no shame in it. As I shared with you, I have fallen. I don't know about Bob.
I have.
Bob walks on the moon. So we all fall. It's indiscriminate. So share that. I know sometimes we are really shy about sharing that with our doctors, but they need to know, because that prompts them to evaluate you and provide you with information, perhaps refer you to physical therapy or occupational therapy, work with your caregivers so that you can prevent mortality. That's what we want to do here.
We talked in the second segment about, some of the rock stars that are right here in our backyard. Dr. Thurman Lockhart. We talked about Alicia Mangrum, Dr. Mangrum. One of the things
University of Arizona Center on Aging, Dr. Mindy Fain and her team.
I know Dr. Fain, yes.
Yeah, so they do an awesome job of training the future of our workforce in medicine, in teaching our medical students how to assess on a routine basis in their clinics.
One of the things that I remember Dr. Mangrum talked about was, surgical intervention, medical intervention within the first 24 hours is critical. I mean, we also know this, and we've learned this through some of the celebrities that have passed away as a result, is, if you take a hit to the noggin, you need to get in to see an ER or get into a hospital and go into an ER immediately, because, one of the things that we have to be cognizant of is the brain swelling. And if it is swelling, there are things that they can do. I mean, they whether they cut a hole or they put a drain in, I mean, we need to prevent those type of injuries, because that's when deaths happen. So,
exactly.
So
35% of our falls result in traumatic brain injury. 35% were of fatal
35%.
falls. 35%.
Wow.
TBI related.
Yeah, and if you can get medical attention immediately, they can assess whether this is going on. They'll put you into an MRI or a CT scan, and they'll provide the intervention to prevent that from happening. So it's really important to get medical
and
assistance.
Dr. Mangrum and her team of trauma surgeons through G60 through Honor Health, what they do, and all our hospitals and health systems do a fantastic job. But I just happen to know that group that they rehab people right after the surgical intervention, because it's important that we get them up and mobile right away.
Absolutely.
So those are all important. Muhammad Ali Center at Dignity downtown, Banner, they all do a great job. I don't want to just focus on one system.
You're so right. And the coolest thing about it is Dr. Mangrum, G60 was created over at Honor Health. Mm-hmm. And she is now teaching, and using the G660 method at other places like Abrazo
Yes.
and other hospital and healthcare institutions. So, that's the thing I love about living here in our state is that it's so collaborative, and nobody's operating in silos. If you've got something good, share it because we can all be better as a result.
Excellent point, Bob. And that's a great segue to share that, it literally takes all of us, takes the whole village to work together. Collaboration, our area agencies on aging, they do a fantastic job. Speaking of that, today as we are doing this, recording this show, they're having the second day of their annual conference and on healthy aging. So area agencies on aging provide matter of balance trainings. Call them, find out. You can go online and check their website. We get referred to the local chapter of or regional office for the area agency on aging. They do a great job. All of our agencies and partners across the state, our home care providers, medical health centers, health systems, they all do a great job. So we work well together, and I'm so glad that we've got this opportunity to raise awareness.
It's hard to believe. You've been on the show before. Got a little doors taking us out, so nice. A little riders on the storm, so thank you. Babak, I always enjoy having you here.
Thank you.
And we cover such meaningful content, and I want you to give out those websites real quick one more time.
I'll be happy to. azhealthyaging.com, .com, and azstopfalls.org. And those two websites, you can also find out about all of our community partners, great community partners, and resources.
Be mindful of your aging loved ones. Get them to get assessed by their providers. You've been listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you.
Live
healthy. Make it a great day. Live healthy. Have a great weekend. Tune in next Friday. We'll be right back.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit cypresshomecare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 105.3 FM.